worship ministry can be hard. It can be tiring. It can be frustrating. And maybe right now you feel like quitting. Maybe it feels like I'm done. Like this isn't worth the effort that I'm putting in anymore. Well, before you quit, I want to share with you 5 questions that you need to ask yourself that will help you center your mind on, do I really want to quit leading worship? Coming up. Hey, Spencer here from Leading Worship Well. This is the place where we talk about how to lead yourself well, lead your church well, and lead worship well. So if you're interested in that, click subscribe down below. But you're probably here because you might feel exhausted. You might feel like, I just need a break from leading worship. I've been doing it for 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, and I just feel like I'm done. Maybe there's something going on in your church right now that you're struggling with processing, or there's just this constant nagging that just keeps coming in your worship ministry, some persistent problem that seems like it's never going to get fixed. Well, I don't think the answer is quitting. I think God has placed you where you are right now for a specific reason, and he's going to lead you through it. But from a practical side of things, I want to share with you 5 questions that I want you to process and really think about. Maybe write these down and then write down an answer to them. Think about these before you quit worship leading. And the first question that I'm going to share with you is just, why did you get into worship leading in the first place? I'll expound on that more here in a second, but I want you to start this process right now. Start this process of transforming your mind and fixing your mind on what's true by answering this first question in the comments below. Be a little vulnerable, although this isn't really vulnerable. Maybe you just feel like you're tired right now. But I want you to answer in the comments below. Why did you get involved in worship leading in the first place? Why did you decide to put in the hard work, to show up throughout the week for worship rehearsals, to put in the extra time, to prepare for Sunday, to show up early on Sunday mornings? Why were you doing it in the first place? Let us know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you in a second. Thanks so much for leaving your answer down below. Let's get into these 5 questions that you need to ask yourself before you quit leading worship. The first question is this, and I already shared it with you, but why did you start leading worship in the first place? Why is that question so important to answer? Well, over the years of leading worship, our ministry gets bogged down with all of these extra things. You start out and you're like, man, I just want to lead people into the presence of God. I want them to feel the presence of God like I've felt at one point in my life. And that's your focus. And when you start out, you're like, how can I do that? And that is your focus. And then over time, you realize that being a worship leader usually means leading a team. And if you haven't noticed, people can be frustrating. It can be frustrating when people don't show up to rehearsal on time, or they don't show up prepared, or your sound person just magically doesn't show up on Sunday morning, so you're scrambling around and you just find somebody last minute and you're like, just press this button right here to unmute us. It can be frustrating. That gets added on. You get your relationship with your pastor added on. You start to realize, man, I'm putting in like a lot of time doing all of this extra stuff, and I'm just not sure if it's worth all the extra hassle that it's brought. But we need to ask ourselves, why did I get involved in worship ministry in the first place? Think about that, because that's what needs to drive us, that pure motivation that thing that got us into worship ministry in the first place. Why did we do it? And if we can come back to that and strip away all of the things, all of the petty little things that annoy us every single day in our worship ministry, if we can just strip those away and get to the heart of it. And for me, that's, I want to lead people into the presence of God. I want them to feel those moments that I felt when I've been led in worship by other people, when I've led myself in worship and God spoke to me in those times and I just had tears streaming down my face because what God was saying to me felt so real and encouraging, and it was exactly what I needed to hear at that time in my life. I want to create or be a part of creating those moments for other people. That's what it is for me. What was it for you? Why did you first start leading worship? The second question has to do with frustration. Think about what is frustrating you. What specifically is frustrating you in your worship ministry right now? What are those things? I'm sure you can name something. You can probably name 10 things right now. Maybe make a list of those, write them out, and say, these are the specific things that I'm really frustrated with right now in my worship ministry. But the question that I want you to ask is not what is frustrating me in my worship ministry right now. That's where it starts. But I want you to take it a step further and ask, what part of my frustration can I own and fix? What part of your frustration in your worship ministry can you own and fix? It's easy to just blame other people and be like, these people don't show up prepared. They don't show up on time. I don't agree with the decisions that they're making. Whatever it is, it's easy to blame other people, but good leaders, are you a good leader? You're a good leader. Good leaders don't just blame other people. They think, this is the problem that my organization, my worship ministry is faced with. What can I do about it? Because I'm a leader in my worship ministry, so I play a part in fixing whatever that frustration, whatever that pain point is. So don't just go around and blame other people. You're always going to have frustrations in your worship ministry. There's always going to be things that tick you off, make you mad. You can't control that. But what you can control is how you react to it and what you do in response to it. So think about it honestly. If your worship team isn't prepared, have you, number one, set the expectation for them to be prepared? Maybe you've never explicitly said that to them, and you need to fix the problem by explicitly saying it to them. Or maybe the problem is that you're not getting them what they need on time, and you need to get them the materials that they need to learn the songs in a more timely manner. You see, there's so many factors at play in these frustrations, and yeah, it might be somebody else's fault, but usually there's something that we can do to help the situation be a little less frustrating. So what are the things that are frustrating you in your worship ministry right now, and what can you do to own those frustrations and fix them? Think about that. Question number 3, now we get to the good part. I want you to ask yourself, from the last year, what are 3 things that I can celebrate that happened in my worship ministry? What are 3 things that you can celebrate that happened in your worship ministry over the past year? If you're watching this video in 2021 and not like far in the future, then you know this past year was really hard because we went through the whole COVID transition. But I know some amazing stories, some amazing things that happened out of that time where we weren't sure if we could even gather together as a church. We weren't sure how to gather together as a church. God still worked in that season. And I want you to find 3 things to celebrate. You know, the negative things in our worship ministry are always so much louder than the positive things. You've experienced this before. And I've experienced it before, where in this very room, my worship space right now, after the worship service, I'll have like 4 people come up to me and they'll be like, man, worship was amazing today. You know, God said this to me. God spoke to me in this way. I saw God moving like this. And I'm like, that's amazing. And then you have the one person that comes up to you and they're like, why were the drums so loud today, right? Or why do we even need drums in the first place? And that's the thought that sticks with you. But that's not the ratio that actually happened. Like I had 4 good comments and 1 bad comment. Those 4 good comments should outweigh the bad comment. And it's the same in our worship ministry in all things. You've got probably 20 things that you can celebrate and maybe 2 things that are really frustrating right now, but we focus on those really frustrating things. So I want you to find 3 things that you can celebrate. How have you seen God move in your worship ministry? Has he added new people to your worship team? Were you able to learn some new worship leading skill through watching this channel? Were you able to connect with another worship leader and be encouraged? Whatever it is, find 3 things that you can celebrate in your worship ministry. Number 4, ask yourself, when was the last time I had a week off? When was the last time you had a week off? When was the last time you had a vacation? You know, sometimes we don't need to quit our worship ministry. We just need a week off. We need to be like, you know what? I'm going on vacation this week. Maybe it feels like there's nobody to lead in your place, but I want to tell you that you are important in your church, but you are not that important. Your worship ministry, your church, should not fall apart if you step away for one Sunday. It's going to be okay. I know it doesn't feel like that, but you will find a solution so that you can have a week off. If you haven't had a week off in like 2 years, you need a week off. And that's probably one of the reasons that you feel like quitting, is because it just feels like you're doing this week in and a week out over and over and over and over again, and you're just tired and you need a rest. And whenever you take a week off, maybe you've had a week off, but your week off hasn't really been a week off. It's been like, okay, I'm going away with my family on Saturday till the next Saturday, and you get to the beach or to the cabin in the woods or wherever you're going, and you get there on that first Saturday that you have off, and you get a text on your phone, and you're like, so it begins, right? Like some stupid problem that I don't need to be dealing with on my vacation right now. Maybe you've had a lot of weeks off like that, but you need a true week off. And I'm going to be putting out a video in the future about how to take a week off, but just ask yourself, when was the last time I had like a real week off? Maybe I don't need to quit. Maybe I'm just tired and I need to rest for a little bit, like a week or 2 weeks or a month. If you've been doing this for 10 years and you've only had 1 week off the entire time, when was the last time you had a week off? Finally, number 5, I want you to ask yourself, how is your personal relationship with God? How's your personal relationship with God? Do you still have that first love like you did when you first started leading worship? Or have you been bogged down by the millions of things that have happened over your time leading worship? And now, not only does your worship ministry feel like a chore, but your personal relationship feels like a chore. Your personal relationship with God feels like a chore. It feels like a chore to open up your Bible, because you know whenever you open up your Bible, you're just going to be searching for that one verse to share on Sunday morning. Or it feels like a chore to break out your instrument and just have a personal time of worship, because you know that you're not really just going to be worshiping personally. You're going to be thinking about, okay, how does this tie into what I do at church? And those thoughts aren't always bad, but I want you to ask yourself this too. If you weren't leading worship anymore, if you weren't involved in ministry, what would be left of your personal relationship with God? Or has your entire personal relationship with God attached itself so fully to your involvement in worship ministry where you aren't even reading the Bible anymore because you know you're going to read the Bible at worship team rehearsal, or on Sunday morning, you've got a couple services at your church, and you know that you're just going to hear a message 3 times in a Sunday. So you don't need to feed yourself because you're going to get it at church, right? I've been there. I know that. And it's not until we fix that personal relationship with God that things will start to flow again in our worship ministry, because our public worship ministry, our public ministry in general, flows from our private disciplines. So get your private disciplines right. Even if it means, I'm not going to spend as much time on those little worship ministry things that I've been so focused on, because I just need to sit down and read my Bible for myself. Every morning I'm going to get up and read my Bible for 15 minutes and then pray. And I know there's like a million things I could be working on for my worship ministry right now, but this is more important. Martin Luther said this. He said, I have so much to do today. I think I'll spend the first 3 hours in prayer. I have so much to do today. I think I'll spend the first 3 hours in prayer. Is that the attitude that you have, where you know that your public ministry flows from your private discipline? How is your personal relationship with God? So, worship leader, don't quit. It's not worth it. Ask yourself those 5 questions and be encouraged. And not just encouraged, but actually find a solution to fixing the frustrations in your worship ministry right now and creating a sustainable rhythm that can allow you to serve for the next 15, 20 years, 45 years of your life in worship ministry. Don't quit. You're too important. Don't quit. And if you've made the decision to not quit, congratulations. Let's get you on the road to improving your worship leading. I put together a free audio training called 5 Tips to Instantly Improve Your Worship Leading. There's a link to it down in the description below. You got this. Check it out. Other than that, thanks so much for joining me. Until I see you in the next video, keep leading worship well.